Leg 2 of the rally was held 50 kilometers to the south of Nairobi in the Machakos foothills and across the Athi Plains. There were 120 kilometers of competitive motoring split over 4 stages that would be repeated twice. The roads had all been graded and the speeds were expected to be even faster than on leg 1, but in Africa, a smooth road is relative. Running at the back of the main event were the two-wheel drive championship contenders who were competing in their own category. 9 crews were taking part in a range of cars that were all frontrunners in the Safari some 30 years ago. The Safari would be tough on these old cars, although they only had to cover loop 1 of the stages on each leg, amounting to 145 kilometers. Jonathan Savage and Sebastian Tham, driving a Datsun 260Z, were the favorites. They were quickest over the 5 stages of leg 1 and had opened up a lead of 3 minutes by the halfway point. Charan Tethi and Sudhir Tati are past two-wheel drive champions, but had had a year's sabbatical from the sport following a huge accident in 2005. After the first 5 stages, they were lying second. The VW Golf GTI they were driving had been hastily prepared following a late decision to enter, and after the rally, it was for sale. Third in the running early on were Jasmeet Chana and Randeep Khalsi in another Golf GTI. Although they had put in a consistent drive, it was not quick enough to keep up with the others, and they would reach halfway 6 minutes behind. The Alfeta GTV of Raji Parij and Pavinder Panisar should have been up in front, competing with the Datsun, but they were held back with an assortment of problems. They were in 4th, 13 minutes both behind the car ahead and the car behind. Gurmeet and Inderjit Tethi had been so anxious to enter the Safari that they had persuaded their mother to lend them her car. Under the threat that it had to be returned in one piece, they were driving cautiously, which reflected in their stage times. All they wanted was to finish, and 5th overall on leg 1 was a bonus. The remainder of the group were all having problems. For Darren Miranda and Dapinda Khalsi, sitting in the Toyota Levine was akin to riding a horse. Watch their rear suspension. They would tighten it all up in service and be ready for leg 2. Leonardo Veresi and Kigondu Karedi will be entering all rounds in the 2007 two-wheel drive Kenya National Rally Championship and were hoping to score well in the Safari. But the car would let them down and they were disappointed to be down in 7th. Ishpal Bilku and Jasal Ganatra were the epitome of this budget category of rallying by entering a veteran Toyota Corolla. Only 10 kilometers into the first stage, they thought their rally was over when the fan belt broke.
The car's just overheating, so we've lost a fan belt. It's cut off and we've lost it, so can't continue until we get a new fan belt.
With no spare but in good spirits, a hasty mod was used and they were soon on their way. But that was only the beginning of their problems, and after a long day, returned to service on the end of a tow rope. Positions would not change the following day as the cars faced the stages south of Nairobi. The Alfeta remained in 4th, although by the end it would no longer reverse.
Oh, reverse gear. We didn't use it the whole rally and now it won't work. we haven't engaged it the whole rally, now it won't work, but it's okay, we don't need reverse, so yeah, hopefully.
Gurmeet and Inderjit Tethi kept the Golf on the road to finish 5th. After a good clean and service, the car would be in fine fettle for Mom to go to work in, albeit with a few more kilometers on the clock. Jasmeet Chana, co-driven by Randeep Khalsi, had got quicker and quicker throughout the rally, but could not close in on the leaders and had to settle for 3rd. Charan Tethi and Sudhir Tati continued to chase the Datsun, but could not match the pace being set and went on to finish 2nd. By the end, the car had been thoroughly tested on behalf of any would-be buyers.
It's well tested, and at least we have a trust in the car now. So whoever takes the car he knows what he's buying.
As expected, the Datsun 260Z was uncatchable and once again was quickest over all the stages on the second leg. Part of the reason for entering was to test the car ahead of the East African Classic Safari, in which the crew will be entering later in the year.
Ladies and gentlemen, a hand for Jonathan Savage and Sebastian Kahn.
This was Jonathan Savage's second consecutive Safari Rally win in the two-wheel drive category.
I don't know how. I mean, the car went well, Navigator went well. Of course, you know, I loved it. It was fast, it suited the car beautifully. I was, very, very pleased.
7 of the 9 two-wheel drives completed the course, but only the top 3 were ever in contention. For the championship, finishing the Safari was crucial and gave all on the board a head start. Back to the action of the main event. The first stage on leg 2 was an 11-kilometer sprint in the beautiful Machakos foothills. It was the smoothest section of the whole rally, with the front runners peaking at over 200 kilometers an hour. It was the only stage in the Safari to be run on open roads, and despite every precaution taken to keep public traffic off the road, a stone lorry sneaked onto the section, forcing the stage to be cancelled. Andrea Navarra and Guido D'Amore resumed their attack on stage 13, adding to their lead by another 14 seconds. Then, 6 kilometers into the next section on the Arthi Plains, they punctured. They continued on the flat to the end of the stage, and the reduced pace lost them 1.5 minutes, plummeting them to 3rd overall. Conrad Rautenbach and Peter Marsh faced no such problems and stormed through the stages to take over the rally lead. They were running second on the road and would now be difficult to catch. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup had also benefited from Navarro's puncture and were now lying second, trailing Rautenbach by 1.5 minutes. With a potential win on the horizon, they were now focusing on chasing even harder. Hideki Miyoshi and Hikaru Ichino had started the day in 6th and were anxious to finish in a podium position. They put in a determined drive and by the end of the first loop of the stages had climbed up 2 places to 4th.
Light 6 over lock. Into.
It was Emmanuel Kato and Moses Matovu who had surrendered 4th place, but they had lost more than that. The alternator failed and repairs on the side of the road cost them an hour in lost time. They plummeted to 2nd last and the finish was now all they could hope for.
If we'd known that the alternator wasn't charging fully in the morning, somebody even offered to plug a computer into the car to actually see that everything was running okay. We said, nah, the car's running fine. We went off, but in the end we just changed the alternator, put on a new battery, and the car's as good as new.
With Kato out of contention, Muna Singh and David Sihoka found themselves in a vacuum in 5th. Their consistency had paid off, and it would now be a case of getting to the finish and scoring well in the ARC category.
At least we've got this far, and it's the furthest we've ever been, and we're really enjoying it. It's not that bad, but we're happy with even if we finish 5th, it's alright.
Asad Anwar and Nick Patel had quietly been climbing the leaderboard almost unnoticed. Despite failing suspension, they had caught and overtaken all their contemporaries and were now the 2nd highest placed Kenyan crew in 6th place. Baldev Chaga's first outing in the N12 was proving to be a huge success. Having got used to the car and with full confidence in his navigator Farah Yusuf, he was challenging Anwar, and with only 30 seconds between them, the race would go all the way to the end.
It's always fun to fight with Asad. He's such a good laugh. At the end of the stage, we look at each other and like, yeah, okay, you did me, I did whatever. So yeah, it's always really good, but also for the points, yeah, it's very important.
Sami Aslam and Abdul Sidi had been caught off guard by the pace of their immediate